Hey everyone, this is Smarty from Everything Star Wars and welcome to another video. Today's topic is EA's Battlefront 2015 or Battlefront 2. Which is better? In 2013, Disney and EA announced that EA would hold exclusive rights to publish Star Wars video games. Many people were excited for new AAA Star Wars games, but were also worried given EA's terrible business record. EA's work in the Star Wars universe for the first several years was limited to BioWare's The Old Republic online MMORPG, but in 2015, the Battlefront reboot was released. 2 years later, Battlefront 2 was released. So, now that both games have been out a considerable amount of time, I'm going to compare the two games head to head. The comparison will be made in 6 areas: release and reception, graphics, single player, multiplayer, post-release, and the overall fun factor. So without further ado, let's get started. A quick disclaimer: this is all my opinion. Some is objective, but a lot is my personal view. Feel free to disagree and let me know your opinions in the comments. Battlefront 2015 was released with quite a bit of controversy, which has become EA's way of doing things now. The game released with only 4 large-scale maps with 2 40-player modes to play on them, 7 smaller modes on maps based on the locations the larger modes were in, and only a handful of blasters to choose from. The only offline option was fighting AI in an objective-based survival mode with no campaign. The game also offered a premium edition for sale which promised 4 DLC packs for $120, twice the price of the base game. The majority of the gaming community was deeply upset that they were paying $60 for an unfinished game, and I feel like I'm really not going out on a limb here for calling it unfinished. You could also only play during the Galactic Civil War era, so I think we can safely say that Battlefront 2015 had a poor release due to these factors. Battlefront 2, the supposed redeemer of the previous game, sadly had a poor release also. It was initially hailed as the savior of Battlefront 2015 when it was announced to have no paid DLC, many more maps, have a dedicated single-player campaign, and cover all 3 eras of the Star Wars cinematic universe. So people were beyond excited for what was to surely be the game of the year. While all this was true, there was a catch: microtransactions. Now, I won't go into too much detail here because I covered this controversy in depth in my video covering this very topic, so check that out if you're interested. But the gist of it is that you either had to grind an ungodly amount of hours or pay tons of money to buy the loot boxes that star cards, which are basically buffs to your multiplayer characters, were in so you could be competitive online. This sparked the loot box controversy that brought this game pretty much to its knees. DICE, the game's developer, and EA went into ultra damage control mode to rework multiplayer progression in a way that rewarded your work, not your wallet. But the damage had already been done. I think it is safe to say that this game also had a very poor release. So I guess the question here is, which game had the worst release? I would say Battlefront 2015, since it didn't cause the gaming community to basically implode on itself or cause governments to enact new legislation. So, 1 point for Battlefront 2015, even though both games were losers in this category. Both games are running off of the Frostbite engine, a beautiful engine in my humble opinion. Seeing AT-ATs explode or A-Wings fly overhead is absolutely stunning in both of these games. You feel like you're really inside the action, in the shoes of the characters that you're playing as. They effectively caught the essence of Star Wars effects, like the bright glow of lightsabers and the sparks-filled explosions so prevalent in the movies. Battlefront 2 is definitely a newer version of the engine with more crisp graphics and effects, so I'm giving the point for graphics to Battlefront 2. It looks better and improves on every visual aspect of its predecessor. Man, do those super battle droids look good in Frostbite. As I said earlier, the only single-player mode that Battlefront 2015 released with was the survival-based game mode. Later on, they added Skirmish, where you could play Walker Assault and Fighter Squadron offline with a friend, which was a nice addition. I will say that I have played that with friends, and it's pretty fun. Even though that's the case, Battlefront 2 did have a dedicated single-player campaign that fit in the Disney Star Wars canon. The campaign is mediocre, but it doesn't suck. They later released pretty much an epilogue of the single-player campaign to wrap up the story, so there's plenty of content there. You can also play as heroes and chop up stormtroopers if you'd like. The point for Singleplayer goes to Battlefront 2, naturally. There's more content for your lonely heart here than in Battlefront 2015. Alright, this is where the fun begins. We will tackle several aspects of the multiplayer of these games and see which one comes out on top. First, let's talk about an essential part of playing with people: finding servers. They both suck. Plain and simple. I find myself spending up to an hour trying to find any server in any mode with people in it. This is unacceptable when the biggest selling point of these games is the multiplayer. Just add a server browser like in Battlefield. But they won't. This deeply upsets me because games are supposed to waste my time with fun, not staring at an empty server screen. Now I know you can change your location in the options and hop around until you find players, but even so, I cannot find any players in any modes besides Walker Assault in Battlefront 2015 and Galactic Assault in Battlefront 2. This just drives me nuts. Even though this is the case, Battlefront 2 at least allows the match to start with half of the max server count, while Battlefront 2015 requires the server to be full to launch. So, I guess I'll give this to Battlefront 2. It's sad that twice now I've had to pick the less horrible of the two. Next is the core gameplay mechanics. Battlefront 2 has a lot more to offer. The rolling mechanic is much more player friendly. Character movement also feels more responsive and natural, and there's better blaster recoil mechanics and modifiers for your blasters that you can unlock. There are also more ways to change how your character plays and what their strengths and weaknesses are. I do, however, prefer how aircraft handle in Battlefront 2015, but I might just suck at it in Battlefront 2.
Watch yourself.
Anyway, this one is easy. Battlefront 2 has better and more refined gameplay. Next is star cards and heroes. Star cards in Battlefront 2015 are limited to 2 cards you can use unlimited times, 1 card that you need to get recharges for around the map, and 1 that modifies your playstyle and progresses as you gain points each life. Battlefront 2 has a more in-depth system with star cards that you unlock by leveling up your characters and can be applied to each class of character and hero, changing different aspects of them in the way that you prefer. These cards can affect items, health, abilities, and other stats. Heroes are also handled differently. In Battlefront 2015, you get to be a hero by finding a specific battlefield pickup. In Battlefront 2, you get to be one once you earn enough battle points in the match to essentially buy the hero. So, in the case of star cards and heroes, Battlefront 2 takes the cake. Next is playing with friends. Battlefront allows you to team up with a buddy and spawn in on each other. Battlefront 2 does away with this and just groups you with random people who happen to spawn in at the same time as you. This doesn't encourage much team play. Sure, there are extra points to earn by playing with those randos you spawned in with, but having a dedicated partner and them being your friend really adds a deeper team mechanic. Battlefront 2015 is more fun to play with friends. Really quick note, at EA Play 2018, it was announced that Battlefront 2 would soon have a reworked squad mechanic, so hopefully we'll be able to see an improvement there in the future. Finally is the soldier class mechanic. Battlefront 2015 doesn't have any classes, but Battlefront 2 does. The differences between the classes aren't as deep as, say, Battlefield with the medic and support classes. It is pretty much limited to the blasters and a couple class-specific abilities you have. It's nice, but I really don't feel that the difference is deep enough to really make an impact on gameplay. Instead of picking the blaster you want like in Battlefront 2015, just change classes and pick that blaster. Which, by the way, each class only has 4 blasters to choose from for a total of 12, while Battlefront 2015 has 22, which you can unlock with HUT contracts or by reaching a certain level. I preferred Battlefront 2015's way of doing things here. So, to wrap up multiplayer, Battlefront 2 wins. Each have their strengths and weaknesses, and I prefer different aspects of the other, but when it comes down to it, Battlefront 2 just has more to offer with more maps, deeper game modes, a better star card system, and is simply just a deeper game to play online. Let me add a couple of things. I love how Battlefront 2 took the Walker Assault mode from Battlefront 2015 and added more steps to it, creating the Galactic Assault mode. It makes it way more robust and exciting. I just love it. I also absolutely enjoy the Death Star Battle Station game mode from Battlefront 2015. It's pretty much the precursor to Galactic Assault in Battlefront 2, but cooler. Battlefront 2015 had a steady release of cool DLC that added new maps, heroes, and sometimes new game modes. This kept the game alive and had people filling up servers to play the new maps and modes. But the game's life cycle has pretty much ended, with Battlefront 2 being the mainstream Star Wars game now, so player count is naturally lower than it once was. Quick side note, even when the DLC and game was fresh, it still took several tries for me to get populated servers for the modes and maps I wanted to play. Anyway, Battlefront 2 tanked from the get-go. Lots of people, like myself, didn't buy the game until a long time after its release, if at all. I got it cheap and I really wanted to play as clones, so I eventually gave my money to our kind overlords at EA. This led to low player counts and less support from the developers, who initially promised new seasons constantly and a steady flow of new content. This is mostly true, but not at the extent that was promised. There is a glimmer of hope, however. At EA Play 2018, they announced that they plan to roll out a very large Clone Wars season. Like I said in the video where I covered this, it should bring a much needed breath of life to the game after such a sorry release and terrible community relations from DICE and EA. Until then, my opinion stays the same regarding Battlefront 2. Seasons have very little to offer, like this new solo season with no new heroes and a couple of new maps. Nothing close to the Battlefront 2015 DLC with a new hero or two each time and several new maps. So in this case, Battlefront 2015 gets a point because the developer stuck with the game all the way through and had a good player count through its life cycle, at least more than Battlefront 2 has. Finally, and possibly most importantly, which one of these games is more fun? Which one brings the biggest smile to my face when crazy things that can only happen in Star Wars happen? Which game do I sit longest to play and lose track of time? These are very tough questions for me. Both games are great, but have things about them that simply drive me nuts. But I'm gonna go with Battlefront 2015. Hate me if you want, but this is my personal opinion. When the game was fresh, I had little issue finding matches in any mode. Sure, the gameplay is simple, but that gave it character. To be frank, I feel like even now, when I can actually find people to play with, I don't want to put the controller down. I just want to keep going. But with Battlefront 2, I am often frustrated from the beginning that it took so long to find a match, that when I get more frustrated by some guy playing maxed out Darth Maul wrecking everyone going 120 and 0, or get repeatedly one-shot by someone with Leia's alt fire, that I just quit and go play another game. I simply have more fun playing Battlefront 2015, agree with me or not. So, this leaves these games tied at 3 points each. What should I do to break this tie? I think the overall sentiment of the larger gaming community should. If you compare the Star Wars Battlefront subreddits from 2015 to now in 2018, you will see a stark difference. Even with the Clone Wars season rolling out this fall, players are remaining unhappy and will remain that way until and if the new Clone Wars season delivers on what was promised back in 2017. People are always posting the same complaints and issues about Battlefront 2. No players, no server browser, OP star card combinations, less content that was promised, no developer roadmap. In 2015 and 2016, yes, there were complaints and issues discussed, but nothing close to how negative it's all been about Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2, a game less than 1 year old, is almost dead because of how EA screwed the pooch and left Star Wars fans out to dry. Whenever a game comes out as a sequel to another and makes its predecessor, which wasn't a perfect game to begin with, look amazing, you're doing something wrong. To be clear, EA did a great job at EA Play reviving Battlefront 2, but until the Clone Wars season is out and people are playing and the game is alive again, everything I said about the game remains true and relevant. So, even as these games go neck and neck based on these things I observed, I'm going to say Battlefront 2015 is the better game. On top of a better, but still crappy, release than Battlefront 2, better post-release, and being more fun, the game did not divide the player base as much as Battlefront 2 did. The gaming community had never worked together to make change and expose the greed that the loot box system in many games represents, like they did for Battlefront 2. The players didn't kill the game. The publisher, EA, did. I don't blame DICE. I blame EA, 100%. Battlefront 2015 at least kept its promises with DLC and scheduled releases of content and kept the player base informed of its progress. So, now that I named Battlefront 2015 the better game, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below your opinions. Which one do you have the most fun in? Which game had a worse release? Which one would you recommend to friends? I'd love to encourage more discussion on this topic, so let me know. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what other Star Wars topics you'd like me to discuss in future videos. Please like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching everything Star Wars, and have a good day.